What if I told you that the feeling of lust you experience is not entirely your fault, but rather a result of intricate psychological mechanisms? Lust, that powerful, seemingly uncontrollable desire, is deeply rooted in our psyche. It is an instinct, a basic human drive as fundamental as hunger or thirst. Why? Because at its core, lust is about survival. It's about the propagation of our species. Picture our ancestors thousands of years ago. Their survival was dependent on two things: staying alive and producing offspring. Lust drove them to seek partners and ensure the continuation of their lineage. It was an essential part of their existence, a vital component of the human survival toolkit. But let's fast forward to the present day. We live in a world where our basic survival is no longer under constant threat. We no longer need to populate the world at breakneck speed. However, our brains, still primed for survival in a bygone era, continue to experience lust as a compelling force. This natural instinct is further amplified by the society we live in. We are bombarded with sexual imagery and innuendo in media, advertising, and entertainment. These stimuli can distort our perceptions and feed our lust, creating a potent cocktail of desire and expectation. This overstimulation can lead to an imbalance, causing us to view others not as individuals with their own unique qualities and worth, but as objects of desire. So, does this mean we are at the mercy of our instincts in society? Absolutely not. Recognizing that these forces are at play is the first step in understanding our feelings of lust. It allows us to see that our desires are not necessarily a reflection of who we are, but rather a product of complex psychological mechanisms and external influences. Understanding this is the first step toward overcoming lust. Next, we shall delve into practical steps you can take to regain control. Remember, you are not a slave to your instincts or your environment. You have the power to change, to choose a path of respect and equality. But first, let's understand the science of self-control. Have you ever wondered why it is so difficult to control lustful thoughts? Self-control is a fascinating concept, and it's more complex than we often give it credit for. It's not just about willpower or strength of character. You see, self-control is a resource. And like all resources, it is finite. It can be depleted. Imagine it as a tank of fuel that you start your day with. Every time you exert control over your desires, you burn some of this fuel. Now, let's talk about lustful thoughts. They are powerful, aren't they? They have a way of gripping the mind, making it difficult to focus on anything else. And every time you indulge in these thoughts, you're using up a portion of your self-control fuel. The more you indulge, the more fuel you burn. Here's where it gets tricky. When you deplete your self-control resource by indulging in lustful thoughts, you're not just making it harder to control those thoughts in the future. You're also making it harder to control other aspects of your life. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how after a day of battling lustful thoughts, it's harder to resist that extra slice of pizza, or to motivate yourself to hit the gym? That's not a coincidence. It's because your self-control resource is running low. But here's the good news. Just like a tank of fuel, your self-control resource can be refilled. It's not a one-and-done deal. With the right strategies and habits, you can manage this resource efficiently, ensuring that it lasts longer and serves you better. And that's where we find our answer. Overcoming lust isn't just about fighting off individual lustful thoughts. It's about managing your self-control resource effectively, so that you have the power to resist when those thoughts arise. By managing our self-control resource effectively, we can overcome lust. Let's move on to some practical steps. Now that we understand the psychology behind lust, how can we overcome it? Let's dive into some practical steps. First off, mindfulness. Mindfulness is the ability to be fully present and engaged in the moment, aware of our thoughts and feelings without getting caught up in them. This practice can help us recognize the signs of lust rising within us. Once you become aware of these feelings, you can then consciously choose how to respond to them rather than being swept away by them. It's not about suppressing or denying these feelings, but rather acknowledging them and choosing not to act on them. Next, understanding triggers. Triggers are specific situations, environments, or even people that provoke lustful thoughts. Identifying these triggers can help you anticipate and prepare for these situations. For instance, if certain movies or TV shows trigger lustful thoughts, you might choose to avoid them or watch them with a different mindset. Avoiding temptation is another crucial step. It's important to recognize that we all have our weaknesses. If you know that you're prone to lustful thoughts in certain situations, it's wise to avoid these scenarios when possible. This doesn't mean living in fear or isolation, but rather making smart decisions to protect your mental and emotional health. Finally, the importance of self-respect and respect for others cannot be overstated. Viewing others as objects of lust devalues them and ourselves. By treating people with kindness, dignity, and respect, we can shift our focus from lustful thoughts to genuine human connection. Remember, these steps require consistent effort and practice. It's not about being perfect, but rather making progress. You might stumble along the way, and that's okay. What matters is that you pick yourself up, learn from your mistakes, and keep moving forward. These steps are not quick fixes, but with consistent effort, they can help you overcome lust. The journey to overcome lust is a marathon, not a sprint. It's a path of self-discovery, growth, and ultimately freedom. So be patient with yourself, stay committed to your journey, and remember, you're not alone in this. Did you know you can train your brain to control lustful thoughts? Yes, it's true. The power of habit is a mighty tool that we can harness to overcome any challenge, and lust is no exception. Habits are the brain's way of saving effort. When we repeat an action over and over, our brain starts to automate the process. This is why things like brushing our teeth or driving home from work can feel so automatic. We've done it so many times that it's become a habit. But what if we could use the same mechanism to control our thoughts, particularly those that are lustful? The idea might seem far-fetched, but it's entirely possible. The first step is understanding the habit loop. This is a three-part process that every habit follows: a cue, a routine, and a reward. The cue triggers the habit. The routine is the behavior itself. And the reward is what your brain gets out of it. To control lustful thoughts, we need to identify the cues that trigger them. Then we need to replace the routine, the lustful thought, with something healthier. This could be a positive affirmation, a moment of mindfulness, or even a physical action like taking a deep breath. The key to making this new routine stick is positive reinforcement. This is where the reward comes in. When we reward ourselves for successfully replacing a lustful thought, we train our brain to associate the new routine with a positive outcome. Over time, this reinforces the new habit and makes it stronger. But remember, consistency is vital. Just as a river carves a canyon over time, so too does a consistent effort carve new pathways in our brain. Each time we successfully replace a lustful thought with a healthier alternative, we're strengthening our new habit and weakening the old one. It's not an overnight process. It requires patience and perseverance. But the reward, a mind free of unwanted lustful thoughts, is worth the effort. As with any habit, the key to overcoming lust lies in consistent effort and patience. Let's recap what we have learned today. We delved into the complex psychology of lust, emphasizing its intricate nature. We then explored the science of self-control, a key component in overcoming lust. Practical steps were outlined to help curb these feelings, and we highlighted the power of habit in effecting this change. Remember, the journey to overcome lust is not an easy one, but with understanding, patience, and consistency, you can regain control and live a more balanced life.